Greetings. I am creating this video recording at the request of several Brazilian colleagues. My name is Peterson. I am a University Distinguished Professor at the University of Kansas. I'm also curator of ornithology in the Natural History Museum and Biodiversity Institute of the University of Kansas. I work very generally in the areas of biodiversity, public health, and organismal biology quite broadly. I've had the very good fortune to work in Brazil off and on for more than 30 years now. My first trip was in 1986, the field expedition to Rondônia. But since then, I've had opportunities to visit most corners of the country and work with very valued colleagues in many different institutions. The institutions with which I have ongoing long-term collaborations include the Centro de Referencia de Geoinformática Ambiental in Campinas, the Fundação Instituto Oswaldo Cruz in several of its campuses, the federal universities in Goiás, Mato Grosso do Sul, and Paraná, Universidade de Brasília, Museu Geldi, Unicamp, USP, INPA, the Jardim Botânico in Rio de Janeiro, and several others. In each of these institutions, I have enjoyed working with good, close colleagues and friends, and I've developed good long-term collaborations. Haven't counted, but I suspect that I've published 40 or 50 papers with Brazilian colleagues, and thanks to the strength of Brazilian science. Indeed, I'd have to say that I depend quite crucially on these interchanges of ideas with Brazilian colleagues. For example, I took my last sabbatical leave in 2012 and spent it in Campinas working with colleagues at CRIA and Unicamp. Indeed, very frequently I feel the need for time in Brazil to interact with colleagues. For example, I'm slated to teach a course at Fiocruz early in 2018, but I'm really feeling that I need 3-4 weeks in your country simply to visit and interact with each of the different colleagues in several of the institutions that I just listed. The topics that I work on with Brazilian colleagues include biodiversity informatics, disease geography, theoretical ecology, biodiversity conservation, and historical biogeography, among several others. Now, why Brazil? Yeah, it's true. Brazil is a mega diverse country. It has amazing resources of biodiversity. But I go to Brazil to work with scientists there. Over the time that I have been working in your country, what I've observed is that science in Brazil has gone from rather humble beginnings to something very, very exciting. Indeed, I would place Brazil amongst the leading countries in the hemisphere in my fields of science. I would say probably in the top 3 in the entire hemisphere. Brazil has invested very broadly in young scientists, especially students and postdocs have been supported by many different types of scholarships and travel grants. And Brazil is enjoying the benefits of that investment. Quite simply, Brazil now enjoys a rich crop of exciting young scientists. I would also note that Brazil's investment in looking outward to developing countries around the world is also quite important. Now, all this investment is paying off. All this investment has placed Brazil very crucially on the world scene in terms of scientific excellence. But I have noticed a significant reduction in that funding and investment from Brazil in recent decades. Um, I know that Brazil has had its economic problems, but I really hope that as Brazil recovers from those problems, it can also recover its investment in its science. Um, I'm very excited to have such a long set of roots working in Brazil and working with Brazilian colleagues. And that will work and that will continue and that will flourish to the extent that those colleagues are well funded and feel the investment from their federal and state science foundations. The science investment in Brazil is important, it is paying off, and it is necessary into the future. I hope that this brief commentary has been useful to you. If there's anything that I personally can do to help build this case, or that I could do to support science in Brazil, I am at your disposition. I'm very excited about Brazilian science in my fields. And so again, I'm quite willing to lend a hand if there's anything that I can do. My very best regards.